We're going to start recording our session because we want to start as soon as possible. We have so many things to tell you. Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, dear all. And before we start, and as we give some time for our attendees to connect, let's share a video that we have, especially as a very special invitation that we have from one of our keynote speakers this year. Remember that this year we will meet you in Barranquilla. So let's see what Dr. Frank Giraldo has to share with us. While we give our attendees some more time to join. In the meantime, what if you tell us in the chat, where are you joining us from?
Hello everyone, I have two invitations for you today. Firstly, I warmly invite you to become a member of the Colombian Association of English Language Teachers, ASOCOPI. Second, it's my pleasure to invite you to participate either as a speaker or as an attendee in the next ASOCOPI conference. This year, the conference is a special one as ASOCOPI will be partnering with La Alta, the Latin American Association for Language Testing and Assessment. The theme of the conference this year is Democracy in Language Education, Teaching and Assessing for Social Justice. It will be held at Universidad del Norte in Barranquilla between October the 3rd and the 5th. In this event, I will be participating in two ways. In my plenary, I will be exploring the relationship between teachers' language assessment literacy and social justice. As a workshop facilitator, I will be walking teachers through a hands-on approach to the design of assessment instruments that promote language learning and, most importantly, support social justice. Being an ASOCOPI member and participating in this year's conference bring benefits that are best enjoyed when experienced. So, see you in October in La Arenosa. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we are very pleased to welcome you in this space that ASOCOPI has created as part of our series of webinars, which are held on the last Wednesday of every month with different relevant and updated topics that for sure will contribute to the professional development of English teachers in Colombia, in the region, and in many other parts, because now we have teachers joining us from different parts of the world. We invite you to participate, to follow us on our social media. These are our official channels. And of course, we invite you to participate in our annual conference, Democracy and Language Education, Teaching and Assessing for Social Justice, the 59th National and 5th International ASOCOPI, and 4th La Alta Conference. As part of our housekeeping, please remember that our nominations for the Claire de Silva Award are open until August the 30th. You can nominate individuals who have dedicated their lives to strengthening and enriching the association, or an institution that has demonstrated commitment to support for the association activities, and of course in our field. So please make sure that you send your nominations. All the information is on the page. So you have many surprises. After the webinar, which is a very special one, we are going to be telling you about some special activities, some professional development that we're going to have, and some free spots that we are going to have for those special activities. Let me welcome, please, to Professor Jonathan Vasquez Guarnizo. Jonathan is a member of our house. Jonathan, welcome to this space. I'm sorry if I think there is some background noise, but anyways, let me introduce you. Okay. Jonathan is in this moment pursuing the interinstitutional PhD in education, emphasis in ELT in education at Universidad del Valle. He's a full-time teacher educator in the School of Languages at la Universidad Pedagógica y Tecnológica de Colombia, UPTC, where he's part of the research group TONC. He's currently an alternate member in the board of directors of ASOCOPI. Jonathan is not only a very active member, but he's also part of the board of directors that makes everything possible in our association. Jonathan, I'm very happy to have you here in this webinar. This is a space that we have decided for everybody. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. Can you all listen to me very well?
We can listen really clearly.
Perfectly.
So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I want to invite the participants in this webinar, to hello, my son saying hello. I want to invite all participants in this webinar to be active, to listen, to interact in the chat. There are many conversations that we can have as our presenter tells us everything he has to share with us today. So Jonathan, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. All right, just to double check, is everybody watching my screen?
Yes, it's there.
All right. So that's it. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I have decided to entitle this presentation as Materials Development, the Importance of Contextualizing Colombian Hidden Realities. This is, first of all, I would like just to highlight, and I really want to thank these beautiful women from the committee, from ASOCOPI, Asociación Colombiana de Profesores de Inglés, for giving me the opportunity for being here. I really appreciate. For me, it's an honor to be sharing what I know. I just would like to give a special shout out to our president, who happens to be celebrating her birthday today. So happy birthday, dear Claudia. Let's start. This is the agenda that I have decided to walk you through. I'll start with a little bit of a background from myself. Then I will address the concept of materials, then materials development. And at the end, and because of the time, because I know it's super limited, I will be sharing with you two contextualized materials. These are two examples that I mentored, that I directed here in my context. And I'm really proud to be sharing this with you all. So let's start. Let's start with the background. Let's start by saying that I come from a place that probably most of you don't know, because it's a place that is unfortunately underestimated. I come from a place that unfortunately for so many years has been at the center of violence. However, I'm here to give a voice and to highlight the richness of that department. That department happens to be Caquetá. Caquetá is in the south part of the country, and as I mentioned, it's known for its richness in regards to the green gold, which is nature. That's why I'm super into things that probably not many people are used to do, such as going on the weekends to have lunch, to share with family on the river, to prepare sancocho on the river. I have a special connection with hamacas. I have a special connection with the river. I really enjoy being in the river with nature. And thank God I feel myself as a rural person because I come from ruralities. I come from the rurality of Caquetá. That's why that's me over there planting. So back in 2018, I moved to Boyacá, which is a different department. And here I decided to enroll myself in the master's in language teaching. And thank God I became part of the UPTC, Universidad Pedagógica y Tecnológica de Colombia. Since then, I have had the opportunity of transforming lives, especially through a subject in the program of the BA in Foreign Languages, with emphasis on English and on French. There is one particular subject there that is called Workshop on the Teaching and Materials Design, or Design of Material. At the same time, I became an advocate for materials because I became part of the research group, TOMG. In this group, I fell in love with materials. I could notice how, or the impact that materials have when teaching. That's why I decided to enroll myself in a second master's, and I studied my master's at Universidad Externado de Colombia, that happens to be the only master's in Colombia that focuses specifically on materials development. Thanks to this background, I strongly believe that we can transform education through what we represent. Representation matters, and that's why the title of this presentation is the importance of highlighting hidden realities. So, first question, and Adri, could you help me with this? What are materials in the EFL textbook? I would just like to spend like 2 minutes so we can just have a little bit of conversation. What are materials? What do you think materials are? Can you just type it on the chat? And Adri, could you help me if I'm not reading, please? So, videos, very good. What else? What else do you consider as materials in the EFL context?
Well, in the chat, teachers are telling us that, for example, they have videos, books, games, textbooks, realia.
What else? What else?
I would say that many times teacher generated when our books are not enough. And all the things that we design, look, to support learning, materials are contexts. Materials are the elements that a teacher uses in a class to develop his or her classes, pedagogical resources that help students learn, tools, books. Very active chat. Nice.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Very good. All of what you just mentioned is true. However, I have noticed throughout my formation that when it comes to materials in the EFL textbooks, in the EFL context, sorry, they happen to be into two different perspectives. On one side, we have the instrumental perspective, and the other one, we have holistic perspective. Let's see the concept that you wrote in the chat. Let's see if they fit on one or the other one. So how about we start with the instrumental perspective? When we talk about instrumental, it's because we just only see materials as something that contributes for learning the linguistic part. So back in 1991, materials were considered as the media, and media divided into two different categories, let's say, non-technical material and technical material. Non-technical material basically address flashcards, address the whiteboard, address posters, board games, realia, cartoons, etc., etc. While technical material, they refer to items such as the CDs that we used to have, the record, the audio, the audios, the audio tapes, the films, the projectors, etc., etc. Then we moved to a different perspective, to a different concept, which is commercial products. And in here, the EFL textbook is understood as a commercial product. Why? Because we can sell materials, and there are so many companies that happen to be selling EFL textbooks. Then moving on, we have a different concept, sorry, which is the instruments. Materials happen to be instruments. Why instruments? Because they, at some point, they maintain and they legitimize the status quo. Because if you happen to have a material, that means that at some point you have economical resources to buy one material because they happen to be a little bit expensive, right? Then there's another concept, which is tools. Materials are also understood as tools because they enrich teacher education processes. And finally, materials are understood as resources. Resources because they are used to enhance a student's learning, but also because they facilitate not only linguistic interactions, but also cultural exchanges between human beings, right? These are some concepts, but from the instrumental perspective. However, there is another perspective, which is the holistic one. And when we see materials from the holistic perspective, we understand that they just do not contribute to enhancing students' linguistic skills, but they also happen to have a different connotation. Materials are sociocultural, pedagogical, didactic, and cognitive mediations that facilitate linguistic but also cultural interactions. In that sense, I understand materials as any pedagogical mediation. And why mediation? Because they mediate learning. And we can just transform education through what we show to our students. That's why materials or pedagogical mediations is basically what a teacher employs in class to support and guide student learning processes as they enable the possibility to dismantle boundaries in scenarios where EFL is learned and taught. What we show in materials matters. And if I show representation in materials that sometimes EFL textbooks do not show, I'm transforming and I'm transforming lives. So, in other words, and in simple theoretical aspects, so pedagogical mediation from a holistic perspective, we can see that there are two types of materials, authentic materials and non-authentic materials. We already know that authentic materials, they happen to be materials that are used or that were not used, sorry, or they are not designed to be used in the EFL classroom. They are authentic because they were not thought to be implemented in a classroom, such as, I don't know, my clothing. If I decide to make a class with my clothing, that's an authentic material. On the other side, I have non-authentic materials who happen to be those materials that were thought or designed to be used in the EFL classroom, such as worksheets, books, puzzles, etc., etc. Those are types of materials. However, we can also find kinds of materials, and they are distinguished into, at least from my perception, physical materials, which happen to be tangible materials, such as a script, such as, I don't know, a poster, etc., etc., and virtual materials. After the pandemic, most of us moved to a different perception when it comes to materials, and we needed to be online the whole time. So virtual materials, or the concept of virtual materials increased. So that's why we have intangible material, such as videos, games, audios, etc., etc. But now my question is, materials development, desarrollo de materiales, what's that? Back in 1998, this genius, Brian Tomlinson, proposed or considered material development as everything made by people to give and utilize information and provide experience of the using language, which is designed to promote language learning, which is basically what I just said. That means anything which is done by writers, teachers, or learners to provide sources of language input and to explore those sources in ways which maximize the likelihood of intake. So if we noticed, material development have been conceived from two different perspectives as well. One that is a practical undertaking, and another one which is a field of study. I will quickly go one by one. If we talk about a practical undertaking, that means that it's basically everything that we use to create beautiful things. That means the material that we use to enhance learning, but just as a resource. That means that is merely the production accompanying a wide range of learning resources to illustrate methods. That means when you draw, when you paint, when you decide to create a worksheet, etc., right? Based on RICO 2012, material development should be language teachers' special concern in Colombia, as they are the ones who allow students to connect with culture. Remember that when we teach English, we're not only teaching the linguistic aspect, we're also teaching culture. So that's why we should move from this practical undertaking to to a different perspective, which is a field of study. And if we understand materials development as a field of study, we're moving towards research, and we can actually research about materials, which is basically what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So Ramos and Aguirre, 2014, highlights the importance of understanding materials development as a field of study. And why as a field of study? Because all of us as teachers are by nature materials developers, because we design our own materials. In that sense, materials development is a reflective, theoretic, practical, culturally situated, constructive, and thus transformative academic endeavor. Why? Because we can just transform lives, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So, Ramos and Aguirre argues that when we develop and implement contextualized materials, we can generate, number one, a connection between innovation and research. Why? Because we can research about it, but also because we can innovate. Innovate in the sense of creating different ways of teaching. Number two, the possibility to work towards a more inclusive environment for education. Because fortunately, we can address things that sometimes have been addressed as a taboo or that have been taken for granted just because that's not the status quo. And number three, the opportunity to close the gap between home and school. Why? Because if we design, we have the opportunity of highlighting hidden realities. In that sense, they argue that there is a need to explore the effects of designing material by Colombian teachers. Why? Because we have that possibility. We have the possibility of transforming, right? Núñez Pardo 2020 confirms this need because we can just localize the development of EFL textbooks. EFL textbooks happen to be colonized, and they are colonized because they only highlight superior cultures. How about our own culture, right? And in that sense, we can just resist the use of decontextualized materials and standardized materials. And in that sense, we can become producers, not consumers, of context-bound teaching resources, or just simply become producers of knowledge. That's what I want to teach you today. We can just innovate, we can just research, we can just become producers of knowledge. In that sense, I'm really proud to present to all of you two examples. These examples are or were directed by two former students. One is from the BA in foreign language with emphasis on English and French. And the other one is from the master's in language teaching. So now I will just give the floor to Angie, Sofia Martinez, and to Javier Orlando Rodriguez. They are going to be presenting their own materials. I really want you to pay attention to the way they did and how they did it, because this is what I really want to show you today. So Angie, the floor is yours.
Angie, hi,
Well,
where are you?
Angie, you there?
yes, yes.
Hi.
Hi. Hi,
All right,
how
you
are
can
you?
start sharing.
Okay. Great. Okay. Well, again, hello everyone. My name is Angie Sofia Martinez Ardila. And hopefully I will be graduating soon from DBA in foreign languages with emphasis on English and on French. And again, thank you to Professor Jonathan for having us today. So, well, let me share with all of you what my materials were, and also they are part of my monography. So, well, let me start. So the main goal of my materials, which I coined them as gender contextualized materials, was to raise or raising rural EFLs in students' intercultural awareness through these materials. But why are considered these materials as contextualized, may you wonder? Well, to answer that question, I must take you back to the idea that triggered everything. And this happens when I was walking through or by the park of my town, and I saw this monument in honor of 8 people of high cultural and historical value for my town, but only 2 of them were dedicated to women. So I didn't know who these women were. So I started asking the people near me and my relatives who these women were. And the answer was always the same. They didn't know. So for that reason, these materials, sorry, are contextualized because I aim to highlight the the forgotten or silenced voices that these historical women had, and also to empower them, their life stories and their narratives, um, to by recognizing what they have done for my town, Oiba, and also what they did. So let me like present how these materials are structured. So first we have the cover, and let me introduce each woman to all of you. So she is Isabel Corredor, nicknamed as the Traitor. She was Cebalia Vargas de Martinez. She was Ana Josefa Ramirez Otero. She was Ofelia Uribe de Acosta. She is Ana Victoria Salcedo de Cristancho, and she is Aliria Silva Ramirez. They are the core of these materials, which were applied in a rural school from my town, Escuela Industrial Oiva, among the eighth grade students. So then we have another cover, which is a poetic one, which is another name that I assigned to my materials, Blooming Voices, the heritage of our Oivan women. Then there is the page about myself. There I shared facts about myself and my accomplishments so far, my likes and my hobbies. Then we have the contents, which is worth mentioning that since I applied my materials in a rural school, I had to adapt them following the syllabus proposed by the school. So the units, we have 6 units, 1 per women, plus a final activity, a final production activity. And well, these units are Unit 1, Ana Victoria's Word of Candy. Unit 2, the polyphacetic Ana Josefa. Unit 3, the selfless Aliria Silva Ramirez. Unit 4, the unstoppable Evelia. Unit 5, Isabel the Traitor. And Unit 6, Ofelia Uribe de Acosta, the Great and the Fair. Because of the time, I'm just going to delve into one, which is Unit 3, the selfless Aliria Silva Ramirez. Each unit has a verse dedicated to each woman. In this case, we have, for the most needy, she was there, bringing food, shelter, and care. Then there's the set of vocabulary relevant for each unit. And finally, the something to know or the grammar context, which in this case, we have the verbs in past, the clothes, and the ladies in pink or las damas rosadas, which was a beneficial organization that Aliria Silva de Ramirez founded here in Naiva. Then there is the page of the context. Again, it was applied in the Escuela Industrial Oiva in Santander. It was a rural school. It was applied among 22 students from the 8th grade. And they were 11 men and 11 women. The language skills, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Following, there is the index, and we start. Unit 1, Ana Victoria's Word of Candy. Unit 2, the polyphacetic Ana Josefa in honor of Ana Josefa Ramirez Otero. And Unit 3, this is the one I'm going to approach. So Unit 3, the selfless Aliria Silva Ramirez. Here we have a real photo and the verse that I dedicated to her. And for the most needy, she was there bringing food, shelter, and care. Then there's this little extract of the biography. And well, she founded the Ladies in Pink, which main characteristic was that they were mainly conformed by women who dressed in pink uniforms, helping the people who needed the most. Then there's the vocabulary box, presenting the most important vocabulary in each unit. Then there's some facts about her with real photos and or little known facts about each woman. And there's something to know activity, which was an introductory activity for students to get that first contact with the content of the unit. It is worth mentioning that each unit had audiovisual interviews with the real women. And in the case of those that already have passed away, I interview their relatives and, well, their families. And another thing is that each unit has input activities as a way of the reception in the ways of reading and listening in order for students to produce an output activity in the ways of writing and speaking. So in the first item, students will watch the video of the interview and complete this sentence, transforming the verbs from the present to past. In the second point, this was a real experience of Lydia that she lived while she was with the ladies in pink, and students will share how they felt about it. And in point number 3, students will relate their knowledge about the clothing and relate it to the uniforms that the ladies in pink used. And finally, in point 4, students will create their own lady in pink by following the path of how they were dressed, and they will assign a name. So in this case, I obtain names as this lady in pink is Karen, is Paula, and others wrote this lady in pink is the super pink, emphasizing the power of helping those in need. Then there's unit 4, the Unstoppable Rebellion, the unit 5, Isabel the Traitor, and unit 6, about Ophelia Uribe Acosta, feminist rebel driven. She was Ophelia. And finally, the sent a letter, which was the final production activity in which students will select the women whose narrative impacted them the most and address a letter following the sample. And then we have the final cover with another verse dedicated to all of them. In times when women were left in the dark, thank you for daring to bring a glimpse of light. And well, this will be, sorry, well, well, it doesn't, well, work that well, but
It's here,
this
it's
is
here. Oh,
there.
tampoco. Okay, never mind.
Okay, well, I was waiting for show you the real product, but yeah, that will be all. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you very much. You see, representation matters. Matters because a quien no le gustaría ser recordado en un material. A quien no le gustaría realmente que se le señalaran sus trayectorias. Es bonito cuando se enfatizan los aspectos positivos en nuestras carreras. Y qué bonito es descentralizar, descontextualizar lo que, perdón, contextualizar lo que por mucho tiempo ha sido una hegemonía. Now, let me present Javier. Javier is an MA student from the MA in language teaching. I also directed his work, and now he will be showing how the material that he created and implemented is based on a different aspect, which is the boyacense culture. So Javier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Thank you for this invitation, Professor Jonathan. I'm so proud to be here. Well, it's my first time here with As a Copy. Of course, I will be part of this soon. Thank you. Well, everybody.
You're already part of this.
Well, I have to do it soon, right? That's my well, promise. I have to do it soon. Okay. Well, hey, everybody, let me introduce myself. My name is Javier Rodriguez. I am from a little town called Aquitania, but I have lived in Tunja for about, well, 10 years. I consider myself as a Tunja citizen now. And I am an English teacher, graduated from the UPTC University, a foreign language teacher. And I work at university as an English teacher. And well, I am a MA candidate for the Masters in Teaching Languages. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my materials that actually I have here, right? So I will try to introduce this contextualized material. And I consider that it is a contextualized material because it is based on, well, thanks for my, well, due to my experience as living in a little town, living in small communities, I mean, veredas, and I have been immersed in my culture. And of course, I'm a musician. I had the opportunity to know this field thanks to the Professor Jonathan. And well, I decided to start by research this important field because I think that we can contribute uh, with many communities with material, right? But before starting this short presentation, I would like to mention that my contextualized material is framed under the colonial criteria of Professor Núñez Pardo. So for that reason, I decided, well, to read the colonial criteria in order to create my contextualized material. So well, let me share here. I don't know if you can see my screen. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so here I have 1, 2, 3, Lero Lero, Carranguero. So that is the title of my contextualized material because this material is focused on uh, children of first, second, and third grade. So this is the cover. Well, the drawings, I want to mention something special here, and it is that drawings are well, were done by my friend Harold Ortegon, that he is a pretty good drawer. And I don't know, well, I think that I tried to illustrate the uniform of children from Aquitania, and here they are wearing their uniform. Well, here I have the cover. If you can see, actually here, like I have already mentioned it before, my material was framed under the colonial criteria, Núñez Pardo, the colonial criteria. And she talks about the iconography, right? If you can see here, we are going to have the flag of Boyacá. So actually, it has 5 colors, right? So because we are going to find in this material 5 units. So we have here the index. Let me talk a little bit about it. So actually, the 5 units were based on Carranguera music, right? So this is an album of Jorge Velosa. So it is the one to Lero Lero Candelero. So all the songs are on this album, and I decided to take these songs in order to create my contextualized material. So in the next part, we are going to find the syllabus. And I want to mention that this was adapted by the school syllabus. Well, I decided to check the syllabus and I said, well, I want to implement it or well, adjust it in order to maybe bring the topics that they have to put in the material. But actually here it was important to and relevant to mention that they have vocabulary. So I tried to put the vocabulary that they have, and I decided to keep in mind the cultural values. So I'm going to, well, due to the time, I'm going to talk just about the unit 1, about the song El Marranito. And the vocabulary that I decided to use in this unit was recycling the natural resources. Well, in the grammar, I decided to talk about have to, the verb, the modal verb, because that is to, that was the verb that they wanted to use in order to protect the environment. The culture was about natural resources, ways to save lakes, reuse and recycle waste. And at the end of the unit, children had to, well, to create a final task. I want to mention that this material was implemented in a 3rd grade in Aquitania, Boyacá. And for that reason, I try to use the songs used for children. So in this case, El Marranito, La Gallina Mellicera, Cuando Yo Me Baño, La Rumba de los Animales, and finally, Canto a mi vereda. So I'm going to try to talk about the first one, El Marranito. So I don't know, maybe if you have heard this song, it's so beautiful. Maybe I recommend to listen to Jorge Velosa songs. Well, so this song talks about environment and recommend to children to keep in mind the importance of taking care of the planet, or better, the environment. A lot of people ask me about the song in Spanish. They say, well, but why did you decide to put the song in Spanish? And I said, well, I want to mention something, and it is that the song is in Spanish because actually, if I'm going to translate into English, we are going to lose the sense, right? I think we are not going to have exactly the same intention in English than in Spanish. So for that reason, I say, well, I'm going to use the song in Spanish, but I'm going to use the meaningful vocabulary in English. For example, here we have un marrano. So we have maybe a pig, little pig, right? And if you can see here, the monster is a little bit ugly because that is the intention of the song, to make clear that if you throw garbage, you are going to become in a pig, in un marranito, right? So we have human being, we have some verbs, right? And we have here more vocabulary. Well, I would like to mention something about the activities that actually Núñez Pardo, Professor Núñez Pardo emphasized. And she says that well, learning activities should engage students in interpreting, comparing, contrasting, discerning, reflecting, discussing, transforming human realities. So keeping in mind this aspect, I decided to create activities in order to make students reflect, or children reflect, about the environment. In this case, vocabulary was really important. So I have here the first activity was about listening comprehension. So they had to write the order of the words, but also they had to write the verbs, the nouns, right? The vocabulary provided here. Something curious about this material is that if you can scan this code, you will find the listening comprehension activity, and it is produced by myself, right? So you will find my voice, the song, well. Then something really interesting here is that this activity is really, really challenging for children because they have to look for the words. So it was really challenging when I was implementing this material because they had to find many words, but it was a little bit easy or difficult. It was interesting for them. So we have here an activity in order to discuss, and it is about Save Lake Tota. So like I have already mentioned it at the beginning of this presentation, I am from Aquitania. And Aquitania is one of the little town that it's around Lake Tota. And here I have a short reading comprehension text in order to discuss with questions like, we have to keep the water clean, we don't have to throw, well. But here we have some questions about, where is the Lake Tota located, right? So many of them mention it that it is in Aquitania, other ones said that it is in Tota, Cuitiba, right? But the importance of this activity is to discuss about the different ways that we can save Lake Tota, right? That we can protect. So here we have some examples, activities or examples of activities in order to produce text or to write short text, and also an example to write or to speak, sorry. So those activities was to learn English, but also what is the intention of this unit? At the end, the final task was to create a card box to recycle in the school, right? So remember that the song has an intention, and it was to become children aware of the environment. And the final task is connected with the song because in this part, they have to create kind of card box with recycled material. So here they have the steps, but actually there is something really important to mention, and it is that in power criteria, well, actually, in epistemological criteria, when teachers and students are engaged with the material, they become socially aware, citizens aware, right? So that is the intention of this unit, to become children aware of their environment. So when they created this kind of card boxes, they wrote some names like Planet Guards, Lake Dota Protectors, right? So with this, we are creating, or we are raising awareness of taking care of the planet. So here we are going to find 5 units. The second one, La Gallina Mellicera, talks about the family, the cultural values, well, the importance of the family in Boyacá, right? So we have here more activities. We have reading comprehension activities, right? Then we have Cuando Yo Me Baño, that is another song, right? And here the intention was to create routines in children, right? So remember that it is our responsibility as adults to create routines, right? Or better, that children get routines when they are little. Here they talk about body parts, right? They talk about the food, right? So something important about this material or interesting is that the intention is also to raise cultural awareness, right? And like Professor Jonathan mentioned, maybe at the beginning, it's really, really important to keep in mind that when we are going to produce material, we have to maybe respond to the students' needs. And here we have to talk about, well, we talk about the common food in this rural or small rural communities, right? In las veredas, because it's different when you are going to teach, I don't know, something like, we are going to have a breakfast with bacon, right? Orange juice, I don't know, maybe pancakes, right? And maybe children have breakfast, I don't know, panela, calentadito, arepa, something like that, right? It's totally different than reality. So here we have the activities, right? So at the end of this activity, they had to show their common food in the small communities, in the small rural communities or the veredas. La Rumba de los Animales, that is my favorite because actually it talks about the common animals that we can find in the veredas, right? And finally, so, well, at least, but well, I mean, for me, that's the most important, and it is the final unit, number 5, Canto a mi vereda. Because we have to be proud of our veredas or small communities because that is part of our identity, our cultural identity. And that is something that, I don't know, we have to try to keep in mind and maybe to feel proud of having. And I'm so proud of my little town, Aquitania, about my Tintal, right? And for that reason, I decided to create this because actually this song talks about the vereda, but also they had to represent I don't know, with a symbol, their veredas, right? At the end of this unit, right? So here we are going to have a space to write maybe children feelings about the material, the lessons. Well, I don't know. Anyway, they can write here. And finally, about me. So children could know about me, right? I studied in a rural school, right? And then, well, something that I forgot to mention, and it is that I am a musician, carranguera musician. So proud of that. And well, I am here part of me, and this is the final part of the cover. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javi.
Okay.
Okay, as we can see, representation matters, right? And just to wrap it up, because I know we're running out of time, I'm really proud of spreading the word. I feel like the importance of this, of working towards materials or contextualized materials, is to raise awareness about our own culture, to actually highlight that we also matter, that we are here. And that's in that sense, we can just see that we can contextualize many hidden realities. And I would like to just shout out or give a shout out to uh, the work that many professors in Colombia have been doing about materials, especially Professor Astrid Núñez Pardo, Berta Ramos Holguín, Carlos Rico Troncoso, and so many people who are interested in raising awareness about what? About sociocultural issues, because as you can see, Angie focused on gender, Javi focused on cultural identity, but we can also raise awareness about many aspects through materials such as, I don't know, gender identity, sexual orientation, bullying, beauty stereotypes, climate change, whoever or whatever you are interested in, we can just put it in a material and we just raise the students' awareness. Thank you very much. Thank you, Adri. Thank you, Asokopi. Thank you, Javi and Angie. And we're open to receive questions.
We have some actually in the chat. They are using that. It's very interesting that Javier uses Spanish in English materials textbooks, as Javier was saying. It's because of the origin of those materials. But they are also saying that why did you decide to elaborate the materials in this way? You're asking Javier. That's like the question. They are also saying, congratulations, amazing work. Thanks for sharing, Angie and Javier. And it's really beautiful to see how these materials are actually being taken out here. Juan Rios, well, in the meantime, Juan, oh, Juan, I have something related to you today, like a special surprise for the closing. Juan, what's your question?
Well, first of all, congratulations, Jonathan. I know you're so proud of your students, and Javier and Angie, you did an amazing job. I'm very inspired and empowered by your jobs, by your projects, which is to me, they look like a dissertation presentations, sort of like, because I can see that there's a lot of work behind that product, and I really, really, really congratulate you for your presentations. And it seems to me that we kind of like work together, but not together at the same time, because your presentation sounded to me like the use of cultural responsive pedagogy in a Colombian context. Also, I love the use of Javier's songs in Spanish, which sounded to me like translanguaging also. So different scenarios, but at the end, the use of students' cultures as assets in the classroom is extremely important, not only because of language, but also empowerment. And I think both presentations, both projects talk to me about empowerment. So again, congratulations. And my question for Jonathan is, are we going to have access to read the guidelines for that project?
I know Mari Ramirez is also asking the same thing. Let me clarify something. Angie's work Angie's monograph was defended a month ago, so it's super recent. So that's why we're still in the process. Of course, we will want to publish. We already sent her article, her work to a journal, so we're waiting. And in the case of Javier is defending his master's thesis, I think next week, in 2 weeks, soon. So in 2 weeks. So it's still recent, it's still in the process. As soon as we have it ready, we will be more than proud to share this work with everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Javier. Thank you, Angie. This is a topic that, as Juan was saying, it has many things behind, but this is a field that was usually instrumentalized. So we feel like the materials complement the pedagogy, the materials complement the research, but the materials are a field itself. And there are so many things behind that is worth exploring. We are going to take one more question, and then I have a very special surprise for you guys. Mari Ramirez, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm just curious. This question may be for Javier specifically, because this project that I see, it's like what in 2017 I tried doing in a little town in Bucaramanga, and it was all around community-based pedagogy. And I didn't hear you mentioning that concept. So I'm very curious, what is the concept that you are like, I don't know, like circling all of your process? I know that this is about authentic materials and all that, but this is also a lot about community-based pedagogy, a lot about trying to teach your kids, your students about not crazy things like let's go to the gym, let's go to the restaurant, let's go to the airport, because probably they're not going to be doing that anytime soon, but they are going to go to the store, they're going to see their animals, they're going to talk about plants in their environment. So what would be the concept, or what was the, oh, have you heard about community-based pedagogy? Thank you. And it was great, Angie and Javier, and teacher, kudos to the teacher to this. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, of course, I have heard about it, and it's really, really interesting that. Well, actually, like I have already mentioned it before, my material was designed under the colonial criteria of the Professor Núñez Pardo, where she proposes three different criteria: the ontological criteria, the epistemological criteria, and the power criteria. And well, it's really relevant in this criteria to understand that it is proposed in order to decolonize maybe the ideas, our ideas about the textbooks. And for that reason, I decided to use this concept in order to produce or to create my contextualized material, because for me, the most important is the power criteria, because it is where we understand that educators promote a culture of free expression and democratic education, right? And that is, well, the intention of this material, to empower teachers to say, hey, we are able to create, we are able to design, right? We can respond our students' needs and interests of learning. And for that reason, I decided to, well, to base on the Núñez Pardo criteria to design my contextualized material. And actually, of course, the idea is that maybe we can promote more maybe community projects, right, in order to, well, to develop more materials, more contextualized materials, and also to produce our own materials in order to promote our power of creating, right? Because a lot of time we're thinking that we are not able, but actually teachers can create many, many things.
Just to clarify, I know when working towards material, we have so many paths as community-based pedagogy, translanguages, etc., right? Our focus in here is to rescue. I know this is not the right word, but I really like to word rescue instead of highlighting the use of contextualized materials as a field of study. We really want to reach or research about how powerful representation is through the materials.
Thank you very much. I know there are many questions. It would be great to maybe organize a live or like a follow-up for this very interesting topic. For today, well, we are very close to our ending, and there is some important information that we need to share. So I will have to jump in. Viviana, no, sorry. The attendance link closes at 5:55 because we have a special raffle for those who were with us since the very beginning. And here comes the surprise. All right. So here we are. Remember that we are inviting you to attend to our 59 national, 50 international ASOCOPI and for La Alta Conference, Democracy and Language Education, Teaching and Assessing for Social Justice, that will be in Barranquilla from October 3rd to the 5th. We want to share with you today that we are going to have something very special coming. And that's why I'm very happy that Juan is here, because as part of our mission and vision, we want to provide opportunities for professional development. And we're going to have two very special sessions, one taking place in July and the other one taking place in August. This will be in our social media next Friday. All the information related to it. But what I can tell you today is that we are raffling. We are spin wheeling one free spot for the one on July the 17th. Juan Rios, who's here today, was our international plenary speaker last year in Asocopi Manizales. He's also going to be the host for the one in August, Puppet Storytelling and English Language Development. But today we are going to do the raffle for the one in July, and in our next webinar, that remember that is at the end on the last Wednesday of June, we will be raffling the one for August. Our next webinar is going to be very exciting. We're going to be talking about assessment. We have a very special guest, but we will be sharing all the information in our social media very, very soon. So now this is the wheel of names, and we are going to raffle among the people who registered. The condition is the person needs to be here in the room, and we are going to contact you through the link that you left in our form. And the winner for the free spot of the professional development that we are going to have in July is Cristina Viveros. Cristina, congratulations. So Cristina, you are going to have the chance to have this very special webinar a professional development opportunity that is Puppets on the Classroom Stage, the right use for a successful planning. It will take place on July the 17th with Esteban Pereira. He was a special guest also last year from Argentina. And for everybody else, is 2-hour workshop, 25,000 Colombian pesos. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you very much. We will contact our winner. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. So I'll see you in our social media, and I'll see you also in our next webinar last Wednesday every month. Right? Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Adri. Bye-bye, everybody.